Okay, for today's video, we are going over a Carnegie collection lot. These are a type of video I really love to do because you all seem to really enjoy them, and I just love doing these types of video because it just allows me to get a lot of figures that are really cool for a really good price. So, pretty much how this started was I was on eBay, like how I usually get most of my lots, and I happened to see this lot on eBay, saw what it was listed at, and I thought it was a little high at the time, so I offered kind of lowball offer. Didn't get it, and then I went up a little, still didn't get it, and I was like, well, I'll just wait a little bit, and then I waited about a week, and it still not had gotten bought, which I was really happy about. So I was debating on offering like $5 more than I did, but I decided to only offer like $2 more than I did last, and they actually accepted it really fast, which was awesome. I guess they thought it was going to sell for a little faster or for a little more than it did, so I was super excited to get it for what I did, and I got this whole lot for around, I think, $55, almost exactly, which was awesome because it's 9 figures, and only one of them I had. There are 2 repeats in the lot, but only one of the figures I already had in my collection, so it would work out amazingly. So we'll get into the figure that I already had, and that was the Carnegie Collection Psittacosaurus. And I know you might think I'm not excited to add this figure, but I actually am because this one is in better condition than the one I had. The other one I got was also in a lot, and the tail was like kind of messed up on it, so I was super glad to add this one. And I don't keep the tags on mine. I understand some people probably do keep the tags on theirs, but I save the tags now, but I don't keep the tags on the figure. So yeah, super excited to add this figure. You know, it's an early Ceratopsian. I think it is a little outdated though, since it probably should have like the tail fan, but I'm still like the figure a lot. But yeah, probably the one I was the least excited to add to the collection just because of the fact that I already did own it. And the one I had is not in horrible shape like where I had to replace it, but I definitely do like having a better condition one than the one I had. And this one's not in bad shape. And it also, the color schemes are enough different that they actually pair up well together. And then next up we have the probably worst figure, to be completely honest, in the whole Carnegie Collection line, being the Carnegie Collection Mosasaurus. It's just a super outdated, inaccurate figure, and it's, for the time, I believe it's even pretty inaccurate. I mean, this is a 1991 model. I believe we were pretty far from this idea of Mosasaurus even by that time, but and it's kind of funny that I did get this figure because, you know, I actually did just recently get the Tylosaurus, and I literally put a picture of this figure in that video to mention how much far he has improved, or just even the Carnegie Collection had improved on their Mosasaur models. I still do like the outdated Mosasaur, obviously, even though it is horribly inaccurate. I'll actually grab that Tylosaurus right now to show off how much they have improved on their Mosasaur models. And here is the updated Tylosaurus, which I did just recently review. I'll try to put a link to that in the description. But yeah, here it is compared to the Mosasaur. They're not the exact same animal and would have differences, but Mosasaurs would, in general, would all look more like this than this. The crocodilian look is very outdated, and this one is still inaccurate, though it should have a tail fluke, but for the most part that figure is still pretty accurate other than that tail fluke, and this one is also lacking the tail fluke, but yeah, Mosasaurs in general would not be this crocodilian looking, so this one is very outdated, but I still do like it because it is just that old, outdated Mosasaur look, which is kind of cool, but I'm very surprised that the Carnegie Collection was willing to make it at the time they did. And then we have a figure that was honestly kind of a disappointment, I will say. When I first saw this figure, I thought it was a lot better than it was, but after seeing more of it, like online, I kind of had started to realize that it was a worse figure than I originally thought, but once I actually got it in hand, I saw just how bad it was, and that is the Carnegie Collection Carnotaurus. This is a figure that I always liked because I always had the tube version of it. And because I had the tube version of it, I actually really wanted to get the black and gray version of it. And that was kind of before seeing the actual figure. The actual figure leaves a lot to be desired, I will say, because this is at the same time that the Pterabitat, or not the Pterabitat, but the Batat model was made. They came out almost the exact same year, I believe, and their model is substantially better as far as accuracy. I mean, the body itself is not that bad on this figure. Mine, I don't know if they all come like this, but mine has a weird feet thing where it kind of stands funny. But the head is just, if we're being honest, horrible looking. I will grab the Terabyte model and that Safari model, the tube model, to show what I mean. But the Terabyte model is just a remold of the original Batat mold, or the original Batat figure that came out at that time. So it serves the same purpose for the mold, but I do prefer this color scheme compared to that updated green one. But compared to the updated like 2015, or not 2015, the one in the late 2010s, that model is way better than this one. But I'll grab those two figures right now to show off the improvements, or the improvements of one of the figures. So first off, here's the tube figure, which I always really liked. I honestly probably prefer the tube figure than the larger figure. It's got a more allosaur looking skull than it probably should, but yeah, this is just not the best Carnotaurus. And here it is next to the Terabyte Batat model. And this is, like I said, the same mold that was of the Batat model that came out around the same year, but it's just a different color scheme. And overall, this one just seems to be way more accurate. This one has less in one spot scoots too, and this one has more of a patternist scoots. And the current science believes that the scoots would be less like in a certain row or anything, and would be more sporadic. So that's another point. And just the skull itself is a major improvement on the Terabyte Batat mold. But now we're starting to get into some of the better figures in the lot. So first we have the two Parasaurolophus. This is the first set of duplicates. And honestly, hadrosaurs are one that you definitely don't mind to have duplicates of, because, you know, we know that they would live in herds, so definitely not upset over getting two paras by any means. And this is a pretty common figure in the Carnegie line, so to not have one, I definitely wanted to get one, so it works out that I ended up actually getting two. And I actually don't have a ton of paras in my collection. I've got the Papa one and two of the baby regular Safari line, so I was definitely glad to add these two. But yeah, not much you can say. I know there was a few changes that have happened to this figure over the years. There's been a few different like color schemes and stuff, but I definitely like their para. Next, we have another one of the two we got, and this is another one I think to get two of is amazing, and that is the Safari Ltd Carnegie collection Pachycephalosaurus. And this one, it pretty much says that it pretty much shows exactly why it's awesome to get two of this figure. And that's just because it's the two Pachycephalosaurs in that headbutting stance, so it works amazing to have two, because you can just have them in a little mini diorama headbutting each other, which works out amazingly. Honestly, that was one of the reasons why I put... So these figures have all been in order so far of how excited I was to get them. Well, sort of, because the Carno I was a little bit more excited to get than how it was when it actually came, but in order of how excited I am to add them to the collection once I actually receive them. And the fact that I got two of these might have pushed them up a spot or two. I mean, it's a great figure on its own, but they are even better when you have two of them, because you can do the iconic headbutting thing. And I just think they look great doing it. These ones honestly seem kind of slightly different. This one almost seems a little bit longer. But yeah, definitely glad to add these two. And Safari has had some updated Pachycephalosaurus, but I definitely like these two, especially if you can have two of them. And now we have the final two figures. And this one's the exact opposite case of the Carno. This one I'd always liked, but I will say it's, I think, even better in person. And that's the Carnegie Collection Dimetrodon. They had an older model that is like in scale with their older figures, like in the 140 scale. But this one, I actually really love this Dimetrodon. And honestly, it's a figure I really needed for the collection without like even really realizing I needed it for the collection. I don't have many primitive like animals, like pre-dinosaur animals that aren't like marine life. So I definitely needed a Dimetrodon. Like I have some like two figure Dimetrodons, but as far as like one big one for the shelf, whenever I said like I need a Hyenodon or whatever for that top shelf, honestly Dimetrodon should have been my answer, but definitely glad to add it to the collection. It'll go probably up there with like those mammals and stuff, just because where it sits like on the current classification stuff. But yeah, Dimetrodon's a super cool non-dinosaur. actually closer related to mammals than dinosaurs. But super cool animal. And like I said, it's actually even better in person than I thought it was going to be. I really like the color scheme of the brown with the light yellow. And just a great overall figure. Definitely excited to add this one to the collection. Even more excited than I thought I would be adding it to the collection. And now we have the top figure that I'm so excited to add to the collection. The biggest reason why I wanted the lot, and that is the Carnegie Collection Styracosaurus. This is just a figure that I was so excited to add to the collection. I'll be honest, I wasn't even really aware of this figure being out until just fairly recently, actually. This figure is just an amazing figure, and I'll go over why I didn't really know. So most of the figures that like I've known I've wanted, I've like seen on eBay and been like, oh, that figure looks awesome, or I've like seen it in my like booklets of this like safari figures. But this one I really didn't even know was made until really more like this year. And once I saw it, I knew I wanted to get it because, like I said a few times, Styracosaurus is a dinosaur that's like one of my favorite ceratopsians, but I just didn't have a like larger good model of it in the collection. Like I have a few like the smaller figures, but I didn't have a really good one big like larger Styracosaurus that was on the shelf. And with Styracosaurus probably being my favorite ceratopsian, or at least one of my favorite ceratopsians, I definitely wanted to get a Styracosaurus for the collection. And I didn't really know that there was a Carnegie one, because like I've seen the list of all the Carnegie figures, and I've seen this figure, but I didn't really know it was a Carnegie figure. And I did know that there was two older Styracosaurus figures. One's in the regular safari line, and then this one. But once I saw this one and I saw it was in the Carnegie line, I started looking for it on eBay, and there was actually only two listed. There was one on its own for sale, like just as the figure, like, and it was like almost like it was in somewhere between $20 and $30, and then there was this one in this lot. So this figure itself almost paid for like half the lot, and was definitely worth it because I absolutely love this figure. And Styracosaurus, I know some Styracosaurus did live in Alberta, but I'm not for sure if it lived in the formations with Albertosaurus or Gorgosaurus. I will look that up though really quick. Okay, so from what I've looked really quickly, Styracosaurus did live in the Dinosaur Park formation, and it possibly did live in some formations with Albertosaurus, but I am 100% sure it did live in the Dinosaur Park formation, so it probably would have competed with, or well, not competed with, but fallen prey to Gorgosaurus and Psittacosaurus. But obviously Styracosaurus definitely has some weaponry to be able to defend itself from these predators. But yeah, overall this was an awesome lot. Super excited to add all these figures to the collection. And yeah, I guess I'll like make up a little scene really quick so that way I can have a thumbnail. Okay, and that'll be, I guess, the thumbnail that you all will have seen. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Yeah, and I've got a ton of cool videos planned. I mentioned some in that last video. Some of those upcoming videos that I think will be really cool. We've got the controversial cases for Nanotyrannus, which I hope will be pretty soon. We've also got the, what else do we have? We have the, pretty much any of the individual figure reviews from any of the lots I've done recently, especially in that safari lot, like that Tyrannus will be getting an individual figure review. What else was in that Nanotyrannus, which I'll probably have to make that video before I make the controversial cases over Nanotyrannus. And then the Dinocaurus, and then we also have that Apex video, and there's one other bigger video, but I'm forgetting what it is. But yeah, there's a lot of cool videos planned for the future of this channel, so thank you all so much for watching, and if you want to see those videos in the future, I would definitely recommend subscribing, and it would mean a lot to me if you did subscribe.